From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Tuesday, December the 20th, 2016. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu joined with the international community in condemning the deadly attack yesterday in Berlin that left at least 12 people dead and dozens injured, and urged the international community to come together in the fight against terrorism. Netanyahu said terror is spreading everywhere and can be stopped only if we fight it, and we will defeat it, but we will defeat it much quicker if all free nations under attack unite. There is at least one Israeli citizen among the injured in Berlin, a man said to be in his 60s who was seriously hurt, but whose life is not in danger. The man's wife is missing. Earlier yesterday, Netanyahu had made similar remarks after the assassination of Russia's ambassador to Turkey, Andrei Karlov, in Ankara yesterday. Netanyahu said the murder of a diplomat serves as a stark reminder of the need for the civilized world to come together in fighting the forces of terrorism. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon addressed the UN Security Council last week at the end of his tenure in the position. In his remarks, Ban acknowledged the bias against Israel at the UN. He said decades of political maneuverings have created a disproportionate volume of resolutions, reports, and conferences criticizing Israel. In many cases, he said, rather than helping the Palestinian cause, this reality has hampered the ability of the UN to fulfill its role effectively. B'nai B'rith International commended the outgoing UN chief for rejecting bias against Israel in his remarks. President Gary Saltzman said, though, we wish that UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, for all his good intentions, as well as shortcomings in peacemaking, had lent this honest acknowledgement throughout his decade-long tenure as Secretary General, but now hope his successor, Antonio Guterres, will adopt a principled leadership position from the outset of his term at the helm. In his statements on December the 16th, Ban also reaffirmed the right of the Jewish people to a state and said that terror group Hamas must recognize that right and renounce violence. Ohio's resolution against the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement that passed earlier this month in Ohio's Senate and in Ohio's House last month is now law. Ohio Governor John Kasich signed the bill targeting the anti-Israel movement into law yesterday. It prohibits Ohio from contracting with companies that engage in boycotts of Israel, including firms located outside the state, and also requires companies to explicitly state in contracts that they are not boycotting or divesting. Executive Director of Ohio Jewish Communities Howie Begelman said with Governor Kasich's signature, Ohio becomes the latest state to stand up against the discrimination based on national origin inherent in efforts to boycott, divest, or sanction Israel. It's also a stand in support of free trade and academic freedom. Ohio is now the 14th state in the U.S. to enact such a law. A synagogue in Florida has upped its security after receiving several threatening letters. Local paper The Tallahassee Democrat reports that Shomrei Torah received 3 letters of hate-filled rhetoric, although president of the congregation David Abrams noted that there were no direct threats to the synagogue. Nonetheless, Shomrei Torah has now installed surveillance cameras and asked for an increase in police patrols. And police in New York are investigating several reports of anti-Semitic graffiti across Long Island. The Daily News reported that red spray-painted swastikas were reported recently in the towns of Merrick and Mineola, and several swastikas were discovered by a professor at the Nassau Community College campus in Garden City on Friday. ADL New York Regional Director Evan Bernstein said there was a concerning uptick in swastika vandalism across New York State. He said it is incumbent upon community and religious leaders and Nassau County leadership to forcefully denounce these manifestations of hate whenever and wherever they surface. The city of Jerusalem distributed free Christmas trees to its Christian residents today. The municipality of Jerusalem conducts the annual tradition, which took place at the Old City's Jaffa Gate. Earlier this week at the New Gate in the Old City, a Christmas tree lighting was held. And looking now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Tuesday, December the 20th, beginning at 7, more of our coverage of the recent General Assembly of the Jewish Federations of North America with remarks from JFNA President Jerry Silverman and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And then at 7:30, a discussion from the GA on the future of religious pluralism in Israel with Ruth Halperin Kadari of Bar Ilan University and Chaya Gilboa of the Shalom Hartman Institute. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Rabbi Uri Regev on L'chaim. Regev is CEO of Chidush for Freedom of Religion and Equality in Israel. And at 10, Executive Director of the Israel Religious Action Center, Anat Hoffman, discusses religious pluralism, women's rights, and other issues in a program of Temple Bethel of Stanford. And coming up right after this newscast tonight, it's In the News with Mark Golub. And that's the JBS News Update for Tuesday, December the 20th, 2016. I'm Teisha Bader.